It's the biggest stage in the game of basketball. Players work and push themselves to the limit all season just to get to this point, a stage they strive to achieve in their NBA careers. It's the NBA Finals. But of course, like every season, only one can be crowned the champion. Only one can walk away with all the glory and remember the moment in history where they got to hold up the Larry O'Brien trophy. And with the NBA Finals set to begin on June 6th between the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks, here's everything you need to know about this championship series, from the schedule, players' availability, key matchups, things to be looking out for in this series, and of course, predictions on what's to come. As always, if you're new to the channel and you like this type of content, it would mean a great deal to me if you subscribe to help the channel grow, and in return, I'll be providing more NBA content like this. Also, with the finals set to begin on June 6th, our partners over at Underdog Fantasy have an incredible offer where they're giving up to $250 in bonus cash and a free pick'em pick to help your odds in your selections. For the finals, they're going to have higher or lowers on most player stats for every game. Just pick higher or lower on a given player stat, and you can win up to 100 times your money in a single night if you do 5 pick'ems and you get them all right. Use the promo code M1Hoops, all one word, to get a free pick in the lobby and up to $250 in bonus cash upon your first deposit. Who doesn't want free money, right? It's really that easy. I'll leave a link to the site and the code in the description if you're interested. Now, first and foremost, let's get the schedule of the upcoming finals out of the way. Game 1 is set to begin June 6th in Boston. Of course, Boston having home court advantage in this series, although that hasn't really seemed to be really much of an issue for the Mavs at all, considering they had to win every single one of their series in the Western Conference without having home court advantage. All of the games are at 8:30 Eastern time, with the exception of the 2 games on Sunday in Game 2 and, if necessary, Game 7. Pretty crazy that if this does in fact go 7 games, the final game will be just 3 days before the NBA draft. I feel like this is one of the latest NBA Finals series we've ever seen in recent years, outside of the post-COVID bubble years, of course. Also weird they decided to hold off on starting the series for over a week, despite having both teams finishing off their conference finals opponents early. But I digress. The finals will be between June 6th and June 23rd. Now, when looking at these two teams side by side and how they showed up in the regular season, it's pretty clear why the Celtics are the favored team to win it all. Having won 64 games in the regular season compared to the Mavs, who won 50, the Celtics were far and away the most dominant team in the regular season, having finished off the year first in the league on offense, second on defense, and number 1 in the NBA in net rating. While the Mavericks, on the other hand, finished the season with an offensive rating at 8th, 18th on defense, and a net rating right in the middle of the pack in 15th in the league. That said, though, we all saw the Mavs greatly improve nearly every aspect of their play after making trades at the deadline, which landed them PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, 2 key pieces that have proven to be big-time impact players in closing out the season and, of course, in this playoff run. And so, as much as one might say the Celtics are the better team overall on paper, I argue this is actually a very evenly matched series and would even give the slight edge to the Mavericks for reasons I'll explain in a bit. As far as the 2 times these teams saw each other during the regular season, the Celtics walked away with the wins in both contests, one being before all the Mavericks moves at the trade deadline, and then the second in which the Mavs played a very different lineup than what we've been seeing in the playoffs, with both Daniel Gafford and Derrick Jones Jr. only playing 6 and 7 minutes respectively. And of course, as we all know, what happens in the regular season usually is not an indicator of what to expect in the playoffs, with rotations tightened, slower pace style of offense, and more focus on defense. Now, as it relates to matchups and key things to be looking out for when watching this series, I think the thing that stands out the most, that we're all looking forward to watching and seeing how this shakes out, is witnessing arguably the best offensive backcourt in the league go up against the best defensive backcourt in the league. Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving have been on absolute tears this postseason with their insane ability to not only score the basketball themselves, but to generate offense so efficiently for their teammates. Their ball handling, court vision, smooth jumper, and their ability to feed off each other makes them damn near impossible to guard, which is why we've seen teams struggle to shut them down no matter how locked in they've been on defense. But going up against 2 all-defensive team members in Jrue Holiday and Derek White, arguably the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, could present a lot of problems for the Mavericks and their overall efficiency on offense. And I can definitely see a scenario in which you're going to be seeing a lot of switches between Holiday and White taking on Luka and Kyrie, with Jaylen Brown on the wing and others playing off-ball and help defense against those guys. We actually saw Jaylen Brown be the main guy guarding Luka Doncic in the regular season, but I'm sure that will likely change up a bit, as the only way the Celtics are going to be able to succeed is if they have their best defenders on Luka, who is just on one right now. The other thing to be looking out for here in this series, and what I consider to be a key matchup, is Porzingis if he's healthy and ready to go against Daniel Gafford. Now, at the time of this recording anyway, Porzingis is a game time decision to start for game 1, but there has been optimism that he will return for the finals after being out since the end of the first round. Luckily for the Celtics, they closed out their Eastern Conference Finals early, giving the big man more time to rest. That said, if he is ready to go, I'm sure it's going to take a little time to ramp himself up a bit, shake off the rust, and get his conditioning back. But regardless, this is going to be a fun matchup. Both great rim protectors, mobile bigs that are lob threats on offense. We've said it before, but Gafford has been the most underrated trade of the season and one of the biggest X factors for the Mavericks' success this year. If he can stay healthy and take advantage of a potentially rusty Porzingis by punishing him in the paint, that's a matchup the Mavs must exploit and get him plenty of lobs running the pick and roll, which they've been so good at between Luka and Kyrie and their ability to weave through traffic and their court vision to get their big man the rock. The other keys to this series, at least for the Mavericks anyway, is going to be their defense. The Mavs aren't the best defensive team, we all know that. Not terrible on defense, but average. And actually, I take that back because ever since inserting Derrick Jones Jr. and Gafford into the starting lineup, their defense overall has improved dramatically. But still, not a team known for their defense. And you're talking about going up against one of the most efficient offenses we've seen in NBA history. The biggest concern for the Mavs, and really the biggest benefit and advantage for the Celtics in this series, is the Mavericks are not a good perimeter defensive team, and they're prone to give up a lot of threes. And it just so happens they're going to be going up against the best three-point shooting team in the NBA on the highest volume we have seen in NBA history. The Celtics' ability to spread the floor, move the ball around the perimeter to get better looks is going to be a nightmare for the Mavs, who are a little more slow-footed in getting out to the three-point line to defend. On the flip side, while the Mavericks have been a high-volume corner three-point shooting team this season, the Celtics during the regular season were the best at limiting their opponent in the corners, holding them to just 35.2% from three, and in the playoffs, they've increased that intensity on the corners even further by holding their opponent to just 23.5% shooting from the corner, which is absolutely mind-boggling. But look, the biggest key to this series, what I believe will determine the outcome, which really shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, and that's Luka Doncic, because history shows us, not all the time, but most of the time, the best player in a given series wins the series. Again, assuming said best player is healthy. And while I'm sure some Celtics fans would like to think that they had the best player on the court in the finals in Jason Tatum, in my opinion, it's not even close. It's Luka, hands down, especially given how well Doncic has shown up in the postseason compared to that of Jason Tatum, who's been great, but he hasn't been playing out of his mind like Luka has. This is going to be Luka's series. As great as I'm sure Kyrie Irving is going to be, and the drama and attention will be focused on him as it relates to the hatred towards him from Celtics fans, this is about Luka taking that next step. That next step in his greatness in leading his team to a title, adding to his accolades, adding to his legacy as one of the greatest international players of the game of basketball we've ever seen. If Luka can remain locked in, not only in just taking high percentage shots and being efficient on offense, but also in trusting in his teammates like he has this postseason, deferring to them where it makes sense, not trying to do too much and willing his team to a championship, focusing on the prize and playing team basketball, winning basketball, then I honestly think the series is theirs for the taking. I have the Mavs winning this one in 6. Not so much because the Celtics haven't really been tested, not so much that we've never really seen them get over the finals hump and we question whether either of their stars in Tatum or Brown can actually get them over the top, but more so the fact that the Mavs have the best player in the series, a player with a killer instinct, a player who has all the confidence in the world right now, a guy who simply cannot be stopped. Of course, it also helps that the Mavs have a championship-level experienced player in Kyrie Irving, who has had his fair share of moments on the biggest stage under the brightest lights. It's going to make for a hell of a final series. This isn't one in which you're going to see one team dominate the other. It's high effort, high intensity from both teams. The question is, who's going to want it more? Who do you guys think? Who do you have? Let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.